So today, guys, we're going to be taking a look at happiness. But not only happiness, what exactly is it, how we define happiness? What is good, what is evil? And how do we ultimately achieve happiness? That's the question we've been trying to answer all year long. How do we be happy? So, first and foremost, I'd like you guys to recall what we discussed in last video. So, these voluntary human acts can either be good or evil. Alright? And you're asking me, well, is there no in-between? Well, technically speaking, yes, there is an in-between. You can have neutral things. But those neutral things do not exist in a vacuum. Those neutral things only exist to bring you towards evil or bring you towards the good. Alright? So let's say, for example, I want to go to the bank and withdraw money. Alright? Let's say that money is a good in this example. Sometimes money is evil, but let's just assume that money's good and that you're getting cash to donate to charity. The money's good. Alright? So something like your car keys, which is neutral, your car keys are neutral, but in this case, they are a relative good because they get you to the bank so that you can achieve the good money. Alright? So, does neutral things really exist? Kinda, sorta. You get the point I'm trying to make. They lean to one side. Alright? So, how do we actually differentiate between what's good and what's evil? Because we do need to have a distinct line in the sand, okay? You can't just say, one guy says it's evil, another guy says it's good. We need to be able to scientifically determine that. Alright? So something that's good will ultimately bring you further towards happiness. And something that's evil will ultimately bring you further away from happiness. So, now comes the next obvious question: what is happiness? How do I know if something brings me towards happiness? To go into that, we would really need to examine a number of different things. So, first of all, we are going to identify what happiness is not. So, pseudo-happiness would be things like fame, money, power, glory. All things that appear to be good. All of these things are apparent. All of these things are apparent goods. Okay? We're drawn to them. We think that they're going to make us happy. But in reality, they do not bring us any closer to our ultimate end. Now, your ultimate end is something that you're spending your entire life working towards. It's your end goal in life. That's what an ultimate end is. For all of us Christians, the ultimate end would be complete and total happiness. So complete and total happiness is not something that we can achieve on earth. Complete and total happiness is achieved in something called the beatific vision. Alright? Now, that's the eternity in heaven with God. Okay? All souls go somewhere after they die. You're aiming for God. You're aiming for heaven. That's what you spend your entire life working towards, because the beatific vision, unity with God in heaven, is what fully satisfies your intellect's thirst for happiness. It's what gives you complete happiness. In the previous video, we introduced this word of unending happiness and fulfillment. This is where you get that. Because, like I said before, here on Earth, you can't achieve true happiness. Now, that sounds weird. I can't achieve true happiness. Most of you guys are happy right now. What do you mean I can't achieve true happiness? I'm happy right now. Well, here's where the rub lies. So happiness is something that your will constantly chases. Say you constantly chase improvement. Okay, that's not a bad one. Improvement. To anyone out there that chases improvement, you all know very well that once you, let's say, improve from a C plus up to a B plus, you realize that even though you've improved, you're still not happy, because you still want to improve more. All right? So you'll be happy for a time with this B plus, but you will always search for more happiness. You will always search for greater improvement, up to A plus, so on and so forth. You won't be satisfied with what you achieve because you will always want to achieve more. And that's not a bad thing. That's not being greedy. That's just your human nature. Okay? So, even though you were happy right here, that is not permanent happiness. So while we're on the topic of chasing happiness, there comes a time in your life, I would suppose, because it's a pretty common thing, where your chase for happiness will interfere with another person's chase for happiness. Let's say you're both competing for that first place trophy. Okay? You're both competing for a first place trophy in, let's say, soccer. Okay? One of you will get said first place trophy. One of you will not. Okay? Let's say this is the good that you're chasing. One team will win, the other team will lose. All right? Whereby your team being happy, you have made the other team unhappy. Now, we're not here to discuss whether or not you're fine with the other team being unhappy, okay? We know that you want your enemies to suffer, but that's not what we're talking about right now, okay? All right? Let's just take a step back from that. So, that poses the question, from a moral standpoint, why does this team have any greater right to be happy than this team? Okay, yes, you can make the argument that that team played better and such, but we're not talking about who has more skill. We're talking about how all of us are intrinsically human beings, and we're all equal in the eyes of God. So who decides that one series of people gets to be happy over a different series of people? Well, the answer is ethics, all right? We studied ethics in the previous Meek Extra Help video, all right? Because ethics is empirical, ethics is science, and ethics is objective, all right? Now, this keyword objective means it's true for all people. Even though there's a subjective component to happiness, which is who gets to win in this scenario, there's also an objective component to happiness, which is what will objectively lead you to God, what will objectively lead you away from God, towards happiness, away from happiness. The real objective component to happiness is that we already established that happiness is conducive to a good, okay? Goods bring us happiness, not evils. A good is always something that is suiting to one's nature, okay? For example, if you were a plant, water, hydration, food would be goods that are suiting to your nature because you need them to grow. Same thing can be said for humans, all right? Something else suitable for humans is achievement, okay? This is one of the fundamental aspects of happiness discussed over in the notes. Achievement is something that is suiting to human nature, okay? You have to have achieved something with your life if you want to be happy. Another one would be like positive emotion, okay? You can have achievement, but you still might not be feeling joy or pleasure, okay? And you could be happy, illegal drugs make you happy, but you still haven't done anything meaningful with your time. You haven't done anything meaningful with your life. So those are obviously not going to lead you to happiness, okay? You need all of them, and there's a list of about 5. Okay, those are all 5 right there. So you can sort of go on your own and piece together what exactly is supposed to be a good. And anything that would infringe upon any of these, anything that would infringe upon your relationships, anything that would infringe upon your engagement with the world would be considered evil. All right. So with this concept of happiness up here, in order to achieve happiness, 2 things need to happen in the process, okay? First, you need to encounter something that makes you happy. Let's say your wife. Let's say getting married. And you also need to be transformed by it. If you really like this girl, you marry her, so on and so forth, you have encountered and engaged with the thing that you so love. However, if you do not allow that thing to change you as a person, as an individual, like, for example, actually growing to love her and have children and start a family, if you have not allowed that to change you, then you're not happy, okay? If you have not allowed that to change you, then you will eventually grow tired of this happiness. You will eventually grow to seek a different happiness. And the same thing can be said with evil, Once you encounter an evil, it sort of sits with you. It's sort of, let's stay with this example. Let's say your heart gets broken by a girl, okay? That's an evil. You are sitting there, you're unhappy, and you're miserable, okay? In order to escape that evil, in order to avoid it, you must transform yourself to effectively not care anymore. Like, an evil will constantly feed off of a person that allows it to feed off of him. You must transform yourself into a person that can avoid evil. So 2 sides to the same coin here. All right. So I think we now have developed a really good understanding of what happiness is and how to get it. All right? So there are certain degrees of happiness. We've got happiness in terms of a good of the body. We've got happiness in terms of a good of the soul, and happiness in terms of the ultimate good. Now, we've already discussed what that is. And as we also discussed before, our will is never going to be satisfied by the goods that we can present it to here on earth. So first, your will is drawn to goods of the body. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean goods that appeal to your senses. Good ice cream is a good that appeals to your senses. Nice music is a good of the body, okay? Then we have goods of the soul. Now, these are goods that your 2 rational powers are attracted to. Like, for example, the intellect is constantly drawn to the truth. Okay? So the attainment of greater and greater truth is an example of a good of the soul. All right? The ultimate good, as we discussed as the beatific vision, unity with God in heaven, is the completion of truth. Once you have found the being who has created all you know and love, you have now experienced the most fundamental and extreme truth that this plane of existence has to offer you. That's happiness, guys. Enjoy life.